This is a really bad sign. He needs to be seen by neurosurgery, but we don't have neurosurgery in this hospital. Hey guys, I'm Siobhan, an internal medicine and rheumatology specialist.
And I'm Mark, an emergency physician and hospitalist.
And this is the very first time that we're working in the same hospital since residency. We're here in Sault Ste. Marie, also known as the Sault, a city in northern Ontario, Canada, about an hour flight from Toronto. There's a lack of permanent doctors living here, so we've come for a week to help provide coverage at the hospital. It's our first time in the city, so we arrived a day early to bike around and check out the area. And in Canada, we have to share the road with our feathery friends, Canadian geese. What you doing, Mark?
Yeah, just getting some good vibes. I think it's gonna be a good day.
Now it's time to get down to work and start morning rounds. Most of our patients are on the same floor, so we're usually able to meet up throughout the day. I always like to start the day by seeing the sickest patients first. In this case, it's an elderly man with a COVID-19 infection, and he's on 6 liters of oxygen right now. Walking into the room, I see a man sitting up in a chair, breathing faster than normal, but still smiling as I introduce myself. He's currently treated with oxygen, dexamethasone, and remdesivir for his COVID-19 infection. I'm relieved that he's feeling better than yesterday, but I'll be more reassured when his heart rate comes down and he's requiring less oxygen. If that doesn't happen soon, I'm gonna get a CT scan of his chest to look for a blood clot, but I don't think we're quite there yet. What? What kind of powers did this?
It's extreme energy.
So here I actually get called. I don't have a pager. Hello? And how are his vitals? All right, you know what? I'll just come and meet you now. Perfect, thanks. So one of the patients is having a new headache that's very severe and the nurse is really worried about it. So I'm gonna go meet her now. This patient was admitted to hospital after falling off a ladder and hitting his head. The CT in the emergency department showed a small brain bleed called a subdural hematoma, and he was admitted for monitoring. What makes things more complicated is that his platelet counts are low, and we're currently running tests to figure out why. Platelets are blood cells that help form clots and stop bleeding, so you can imagine he's at higher risk of that brain bleed getting bigger. Okay, I'm getting a stat CT head now to see if the bleed's gotten any bigger. This feels just like a call shift I had about a month ago. I can't believe this is happening again.
So, how's your day going?
Well, right now I'm waiting for a patient to come back from an urgent CT head because I'm worried they might be bleeding, so I feel a little bit on edge to get the results back. What about you? How's it going?
Well, I just actually have a lumbar puncture I'm planning to do this afternoon.
That's awesome.
And suspected meningitis.
Wow, we've got like the neuro day happening.
It's true, it's true. It's always the theme, it feels like.
I totally agree, yeah.
When I saw the patient this morning, he was complaining of a new headache, fever, and neck stiffness. I'm concerned this could be meningitis, inflammation of the membrane surrounding the brain. I've already started antibiotics, got a CT scan of his head, and now it's time to collect a sample of his spinal fluid. All right, time for a lumbar puncture. I'm taking a sample of the fluid surrounding the spinal cord to confirm the diagnosis of meningitis. I insert a long needle between the bones of the spine, pushing until I feel a pop when I pass through the last layer of tissue. Then I remove the stylet and the spinal fluid comes dripping out. Quickly, I attach a pressure sensor before collecting samples for the lab. So when I first insert the spinal needle, the first thing I do once I'm getting spinal fluid coming out is I check the opening pressure. So to do that, I attach this manometer. The spinal fluid comes into this tube and rises all the way up. For our patient, it actually went all the way up to 34, which is really high and definitely suggests meningitis. Oh, great. So we finally got the results back for the lumbar puncture that we did earlier. So more evidence of meningitis here. We have elevated protein, elevated lactate, and an elevated white count. Now we're just waiting on the cultures and PCR.
I just got a call back from the radiologist. The CT scan shows the bleed is much bigger, and there's actually something called midline shift, meaning the blood is actually compressing the brain. This is a really bad sign. He needs to be seen by neurosurgery, but we don't have neurosurgery in this hospital.
Subdural hematomas are treated by removing the blood that's compressing the brain. Neurosurgeons can either do a craniotomy, which is where they remove part of the skull temporarily, or they can drill a small hole in the skull called a burr hole and insert a tube to drain the blood.
Hi, can you please connect me to critical, please? Yes, I'm calling from Sault Ste. Marie. I'm looking to speak with a neurosurgeon. And now the tough part, just waiting until they call me back. It's usually pretty quick when it's life or limb, but in this moment, every minute feels like a really long time. So, we'll see.
I wish there was more I could do right now, but while we're waiting, all I can do is control his blood pressure because high blood pressure will make him bleed faster, and give him multiple platelet transfusions to help slow down and stop the bleeding.
It's critical. Hello? Okay, so I've got good and bad news. The good news is that there's a flight ambulance that can land and pick up our patient in the next hour. The bad news is that there is no nurse available to actually go in the ambulance and transport the patient to the airport. Seriously. So I've just decided I'm gonna take the patient, I'll go with him, because otherwise he's gonna have to wait for another 3 to 4 hours, and we do not have that kind of time.
Okay, here we go. This is definitely not something I do often. It's actually only the second time I've ever had to accompany a patient by ambulance. My job here is primarily monitoring to see if the patient decompensates and loses consciousness, in which case we'd probably have to intubate him. But the 20-minute ride to the airport goes really smoothly. Then I give handover to the flight paramedics, the patient gets loaded into the plane, and my job here is done. And luckily, the ambulance didn't get another call, so they were able to drop me back at the hospital.
Time to put my feet up. Oh, oh no, it's not blood failure. Oh well, I guess I could just lay on the couch this way.
Alright guys, thanks for joining us. Well, hopefully we can bring you guys along soon. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next video. So,
Bye for now.
bye for now.